in a small town tucked just outside of Denver. The kind of place where everyone knows your name and your business, good or bad. Ellie Foster walked into a garage that didn't believe in her. She was just a 16-year-old girl, skinny, wearing oversized coveralls that swallowed her small frame. Her hands, calloused and stained with grease, told the story of a lifetime spent in the shadow of metal and engines. The shop was buzzing with noise, the clanking of wrenches, the hum of drills, the low rumble of conversations murmuring about the Mustang that no one could fix. Derek Sloan, the new boss, watched her from across the room with a smirk plastered on his face. "What's this? The mechanic's daughter? Guess she'll get a chance to embarrass herself like everyone else," he said, his voice dripping with arrogance. The entire garage fell silent for a split second before bursting into laughter. It was the kind of laugh that echoed off the walls, mocking her before she even said a word. Ellie didn't flinch. She didn't flinch because this wasn't the first time she'd been underestimated, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. She stood there for a moment, letting the laughter wash over her. Then, without a single word, she placed the lunchbox she had brought for her dad on the nearest bench and stepped toward the car. It wasn't just any car. This was the Mustang, the one that had defeated every mechanic in the shop, the one that had become a legend for all the wrong reasons. The engine wouldn't start, no matter how many hours were spent, how many tools were tried. It had become the broken heart of the garage. And now, it was Ellie's turn. Derek raised an eyebrow and addressed the whole garage. "All right, Ellie, show us what you've got. Let's see if you can do what 10 grown men couldn't do." He stepped back, his arms crossed, while VYing a hand as though he was inviting her to a circus act. The garage fell into a hush. Phones were pulled out. Whispers passed between the workers, betting on how long she'd last, how long before she would walk away, defeated. Ellie opened the hood of the Mustang. The engine sat there, untouched, like a beast that had never been tamed. Her fingers moved like they were part of the machine, not hesitant, not unsure, but confident, like she had done this 1,000 times before. The shop's laughter began to fade as Ellie worked. With every bolt she loosened, the room grew quieter. The silence was thick, filled with disbelief and respect. Derek, arms still crossed, looked on with narrowed eyes. He didn't expect this. He expected her to fumble, to quit. But Ellie was methodical. She was efficient. She worked like she wasn't just fixing an engine, like she was bringing something back to life. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. By the 20-minute mark, even the guy filming her entrance put his phone down. He wasn't sure if he was watching a joke or a miracle. Ellie paused for a moment, wiped the sweat from her brow with the sleeve of her coveralls, and glanced at Derek. "I don't need to prove anything," she said, her voice steady and calm. "But this engine isn't unfixable. It's just misunderstood." And with that, she reached forward and turned the ignition. The engine coughed. Once, twice, and then it roared to life. The sound was thunderous, vibrating the walls, shaking the floor beneath them. The garage was engulfed in the sound of the Mustang's engine as it hummed like a levying thing, powerful, smooth, purring. Gasps filled the room. Tools fell to the floor. The once lifeless Mustang was now roaring with the kind of power that even the most seasoned mechanics could never summon. It was a sound of Tory, and everyone in that garage felt it. Ellie stepped back, wiped her hands on her coveralls, and stood there for a moment, taking it all in. For her, it wasn't just about the engine. It wasn't about pro-VYing anyone wrong. It was muscle memory. It was something her father had taught her over the years, not with words, but with shared sweat, patience, and belief. But for Derek Sloan, it wasn't Tory. It was humiliation. It was a public undoing. The crowd that had laughed with him was no longer laughing. The mechanics who once looked up to him now looked away awkwardly, unsure of where their loyalty lay. Derek shifted uncomfortably, trying to regain some control. He forced out a dry chuckle. "Well, maybe it just needed a woman's touch," he said, attempting to salvage the situation, but no one laughed. No one even reacted. Ellie didn't respond. She just stood there, her silence louder than any engine. Her gaze was calm, unreadable, but the power in that silence was undeniable. Then, Roy, the shop foreman, a grizzled man with a thick beard, stepped forward. He clapped once, then again, slowly. Others followed suit, clapping slowly but steadily, not in mockery, not in judgment, but in genuine respect. Your father would have been proud, Roy said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. That wasn't just fixing an engine. That was art. Ellie nodded, feeling the tightness in her chest, but holding it together. She had promised herself she wouldn't cry here, not in front of these people, not in front of the ones who had never believed in her. Just then, the door to the owner's office creaked open. Harold Whitman, the owner of the garage, stepped out. He was a sharply dressed man in his 60s, his silver tie catching the light as he walked. He had been watching from his office window the entire time. "Who is this girl?" he asked, his voice quiet but commanding. Derek cleared his throat. Just Foster's daughter. She was VY sighting. Thought she'd give it a try." Whitman didn't look at Derek. Instead, his eyes were on Ellie. "That engine has sat dead for 4 months, he said slowly. "We've lost 2 clients over it. Spent more money on diagnostics than it was worth. And she walked in and brought it back to life." Ellie said nothing. She just watched as Whitman stepped forward, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if trying to see past her calm demeanor, like he was searching for something. "What's your name?" he asked. "Ellie. Ellie Foster," she answered. Whitman nodded, then turned to Derek. "You let her father go?" "What?" Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. Sweat now glistened on his forehead. Whitman turned back to Ellie. "Come with me," he said. "I want to talk in private." Ellie followed Whitman down the long hallway toward his office. The walls were lined with old photographs, black and white moments from decades ago. In one of them, Ellie's father stood proudly beside a car he had just assembled, a smile on his face, not knowing how time would eventually take him away from all of this. Whitman held the door open for her and shut it behind them. His office smelled like leather and wood polish, the kind of place where business was done. He closed the door and sat behind his desk, his eyes studying her carefully, as if trying to read her like a machine. "I remember your father well," he said slowly. "Quiet, loyal, the kind of man who never asked for more than he gave." Ellie didn't speak. She simply waited. "You know that what you did out there was not normal, right?" Whitman continued. "That engine had been stripped down and rebuilt 3 times. We brought in diagnostics from Detroit. It failed every test. What did you see that no one else could?" Ellie took a deep breath. "There was a grounding fault in the wiring harness," she said. "It wasn't VY-sible without a full route of the voltage line. Most people look at it like a checklist. I look at it like a heartbeat. You listen long enough, and it tells you what's wrong." Whitman smiled faintly, leaning back in his chair. "You sound like your father." Ellie looked down at her hands. She could feel her father's presence in every moment. Whitman leaned forward again, his voice serious. "Derek's not someone I trust easily. He talks a good game, but he delivers little. He let your father go without consulting me. Said he was too slow, outdated. But if you could fix what no one else could, I doubt your father ever lost a step." He paused. Then he asked, "Ellie, do you want to work here?" Ellie blinked. "What?" "A full apprenticeship. Paid. Access to every tool, every car, every advanced diagnostic system we have. You'd be the first female tech in this shop's history. But you wouldn't just be a face on a brochure. You'd be a force." Ellie hesitated. This was everything her father had wanted for her, the opportunity he never had. But why now? Why her? Whitman nodded, as if he expected the question. "Because sometimes it takes a spark to remind a machine that it still works. You are that spark. And this place? It's broken, Ellie. Not just the cars. The culture. It needs fixing from the inside." Before she could respond, the phone on Whitman's desk rang. He answered, put it on speaker. Derek's voice crackled through the line. "Sir, we have a situation out here. One of the clients whose car Ellie just fixed is asking questions. He wants to know who worked on it, and he wants her to come out right now." Whitman turned to Ellie. "Ready for that?" Ellie nodded. When they stepped back into the garage, all eyes turned to Ellie. This time, not with doubt, but with respect. Patrick Renner, a tall man with sharp blue eyes and an air of quiet wealth, stood in front of the Re-VY Ved Mustang. His car. His late brother's car. The one no one else could fix. "Are you the one who fixed it?" Patrick asked, extending his hand. Ellie wiped her hand on her sleeve, then shook his. "Yes, I am. That car's my late brother's," Patrick said, looking at the engine that now purred like a tiger. "I've taken it to 6 other garages. Everyone failed but you. You brought it back." Ellie nodded. It wasn't the car's fault. It just needed someone to listen. Whitman stepped beside her. Mr. Renner is not just any client. He owns one of the biggest classic car collections in the state. What you did here, it got noticed. Patrick nodded. I have a proposition for you. I'm expanding my private restoration DVY shown. I want a new lead mechanic, someone who sees machines the way you do. Someone who doesn't just follow manuals, but understands their soul. The shop was silent. Gasps filled the room. Whispers spread like wildfire. This wasn't just a job offer. This was an opportunity that could change everything. I want you, Ellie, Patrick said, his voice firm. Full salary, relocation if needed, your own team, unlimited budget. You'd answer only to me. Ellie felt the weight of it. The room spinning. She thought of her father, of his years spent in this very garage, unnoticed. But now, she had a chance to sit at the table he could never reach. Derek tried to step forward. Sir, she's just a trainee. We were still evaluating her. Patrick silenced him with a raised hand. I know talent when I see it. And I know when I'm being lied to. Whitman smiled. Derek, I think it's best if you take some personal time. Indefinitely. And just like that, Derek's reign crumbled. He walked out, defeated. Ellie looked down at her hands. She wanted to cry, but she didn't. She stood up straighter, took a deep breath, and said, I'll do it. But only if I can bring one thing with me. Patrick raised an eyebrow. Name it. My father's tools. They still hang in the back room. I want to build the future with what he left behind. Patrick nodded. Done. And as Ellie stepped out of that garage, the sun breaking through the clouds above her, she wasn't just the mechanic's daughter anymore. She was the future. And every single person who doubted her would never forget the day a girl no one believed in fixed the unfixable and changed everything. What about you? Have you ever been underestimated, only to prove everyone wrong? Do you think the world's perception of you can change in a single moment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about what it really means to believe in yourself.